Gentlemen, let's get started, please. Historically, the last part of today's orientation has been somewhat of a presentation discussion on, it started as social media, and it's kind of evolved into your digital footprint. Okay? It's something that we feel is important for you to think about now. Okay? It's the first day of your freshman year. Tomorrow, you're going to be using your MacBooks and your iPads. Many of you have phones already. Right? It's a time to really kind of think about what does that mean to have a digital footprint. Right? What does it mean to be, to use social media, okay, and use it responsibly. All right. What I will tell you, and I'm like this with my own children, today is not a scare tactic. I am not. This is not my thing. I am not a, if you do this, then this will happen. That's not my intent. That's not my style. Okay. I want to present you with some stuff that I found, some information, experience, and whatnot. And I want you to think about developing a positive digital footprint now, okay? Because as you're going to see, and I'm going to repeat, how many people are looking at you and what you do online, okay? And they look at you now. Okay? This is not something where, I have to worry about it senior year when I apply to college. People are looking at this now, all right? So I always ask the question, still at 41, I ask the same question, will my mother approve of this posting? If I put something online, if I share something, if I like something, okay, it's not just about posting a picture, but anytime I engage in something online, would my mother approve of this? Okay? And that's a good litmus test, okay, because it still works for me. Okay? And most of the time the answer is probably not. Okay? And if the answer to that is there even a little doubt in your head that the answer is no, it's not something you want to engage in. Right? And like I said, we're thinking about, this is not just posting a picture or video, it's comments, it's likes, it's hashtags, reposts, anything, right? Anytime that you engage in anything online, okay, that has the ability to be saved and could come back and haunt you, okay, at some point. Thinking before you post is important, okay? Before you hit that send button, post, like, whatever, okay? Could someone misinterpret what I'm saying or trying to express, okay? Could, who's actually looking at this, okay? Potential employers, college admissions officers, coaches, other schools, okay? Everyone's looking at this. Everyone looks at what you put on social media. Everyone has the ability to look at it. If you put it out there, it can be seen, okay? So, and even if it's private, even if you say, well, I've only got a few friends on Facebook and I post something online, well, one of those friends could share it with somebody else, okay? So once it's out there, it's out there. Am I showing a bad side? Am I revealing too much about who I am? Details about myself? I generally don't put out things about where I live. I won't put out information about, personal details. Right? Again, this is stuff that I'm not going to tell you, don't do this. I'm going to tell you what I think is appropriate, but that's up to you as to what you do with that. Because there's responsibility when you use any form of digital communication, even if you're just texting, right? There's responsibility in that because text could be screenshotted and then broadcast, right? So if you take away nothing else in the next 20 minutes, I want you to really think about, before I post, is there any repercussions to anyone, not just myself, but to somebody else as well, if I post whatever I intend on posting, okay? Am I posting out of anger? Am I posting out of frustration? I see Facebook posts all the time that, the one thing I never understand is people text 3 o'clock in the morning, I can't sleep. So what? I don't care. I'm hungry. So what? Okay? But anything you put out there has the ability to be seen. All right? And that's what I really want you to think about. This is like a 2-minute kind of what is really a digital footprint. Just take a look at this. There's no spoken words, but I think it's pretty good. people can make impressions based on what you post. People judge, perceive what you post. Maybe you don't post anything, but maybe it's what you like, what you tweet, what you retweet. All right. Everyone sees this, and I mean everyone can see this. It's not just, like I said, just for your friends or your family or whoever. The other one, the one I didn't mention, in addition to employers and college admissions officers, law enforcement. Okay. There are times where if law enforcement is investigating some kind of crime or something, and you're in a picture that happens to be in the context of a criminal activity. Okay? There's all sorts of people that can look on Facebook or Instagram or whatever. And don't forget too that people can post stuff. Just because someone posts it doesn't mean it's who they say they are, right? Because anybody can create a fake profile, anybody can create misinformation. And we're seeing a lot of this, especially in the last couple of years with the 2016 elections and whatnot. Anybody can post anything. Okay, so you have to look at what you see online with a little bit of skepticism. All right. I'm going to show you some examples of stuff that I found that I think are pretty good. They're not all high school. Some of them are high school related, but it's just kind of food for thought. Okay, it's not good, bad, and different. It's not my personal opinion or anything. It's just some stuff that I found that I think that would be pretty helpful. Customer released a 74-cent tip. New Jersey lawmaker calls him jerk on Twitter. This only happened in the last 2 months. It was a Republican lawmaker. He ranted that someone left a waiter or waitress a 74-cent tip. Okay, well, maybe that is appropriate. Well, it's really not right to leave a waitress or a waiter a 74-cent tip. Now this Declan O'Scanlan, now all of a sudden he's got a name, and maybe that's not what he intended. Maybe he intended to bring attention to people that don't make a lot of money, below the minimum wage. But now all of a sudden he's in the spotlight because we don't know the other story. A lot of times people post stuff online and we see a glimpse of time in that particular moment, but we don't see what happens before, we don't know what happens after. Okay? So maybe there was a reason there was a 74-cent tip left. We don't know that. Okay? But what we see is just what's there. All right? I will personally shoot every one of them. Guidance counselor's Facebook post under investigation. Okay? So sometimes when you're having a bad day at work, and even if you work, and you're working minimum wage at ShopRite, okay, you generally don't want to post anything about your job. Okay? It's just, it's unprofessional, first of all. And then number two, if you get fired, it's not like you could say, well, I have freedom of speech. Yes, you do. In this country, you have freedom of speech. You can say what you want. But with that comes responsibility. So if I post that, I hate where I work, or I post that, this one was about, I believe the guidance counselor was talking about students. If my child if my child cannot get to the Eagles game due to protesters, I will personally shoot every one of them. You've been warned, idiots. That's probably going to draw the eye of at least some type of law enforcement. Okay, in this day and age, okay, anything related to schools, to guns, to violence is going to draw the attention of law enforcement, let alone whatever school you go to. All right, so, and again, this was someone not related to a school, but we don't play with stuff like that anymore. Okay, and I always say since Columbine, which is 20 years ago, it's over 20 years ago, we look at school safety differently. All right, and we don't take lightly any post like that. All right, anybody that talks about guns, violence, and uses those two words and the word school in the same sentence. All right, daycare employee fired for Facebook post saying she hates being around a lot of kids. Daycare employee fired for Facebook post saying she hates being around a lot of kids. This woman complained. Again, she was posting about her job. She wasn't happy, and that she doesn't like working with children, even though she works in a preschool. And she was wondering why she got fired. Right? Again, and think about this from a school standpoint too. You have a bad day at school. Whatever happens, you do bad on a test, you're upset, whatever. Think about what you're putting out there, okay? Because that stuff stays out there, all right? And how could, not even that it stays out there, but it could get misconstrued, and it could be taken out of context, okay? So all of a sudden it's something gets blown out of proportion, even though it's really not, right? But again, anybody who looks at your postings just looks at that snip of time, right? There's not anything before or after, right? This one made national headlines. This was Nick Sandmann. He was a student in Kentucky. This was at the Right to Life March in January. This went not only viral, but I'm not sure I can even tell whose story is true, whose isn't. Okay, he apparently, some people say he squared off with a Native American who was also there protesting something different. I just wanted to put the picture up there, okay, because that picture is more than anything. There was some video attached to this, okay, but from that picture we can't infer who's doing what. He looks like he's got a smug look on his face, okay? He has sued the Washington Post. He goes to a Catholic high school, like I said, in Kentucky. There's been a lot of different lawsuits that, he was slandered, okay? And this wasn't even someone taking it wasn't him posting anything. Someone took a picture of him, okay? We live in a world where you have to assume at any moment, at any time, you could be photographed and or recorded. Right? The technology is just there. You don't know anything different. How you've grown up with a smartphone, you wouldn't know anything different. For me, it's still kind of it's mind-boggling sometimes when I think that this thing, I can record or I can take pictures, and I really don't even have to think twice about it, and all of a sudden I can share it. Okay? So stuff like this, again, this kid wasn't even the one who posted, but someone takes a picture of you doing something or takes a video of you saying something. Okay? And then how do you potentially have to explain that if it's not something that puts you in the best possible light? Right? So sleepy here in the ICU. Will somebody please code and give me something exciting to do? Hashtag is that bad. Feeling bored at UNM Sandoval Regional Medical Center. Okay, so not only we're an ICU nurse, we're bored, we want someone to code, meaning someone to have a heart attack, flatline, whatever. And we also posted where we work. She was fired. Hands down. There's no contest. Like you're an ICU nurse. First of all, what are you doing on your phone? Okay, unless your job has a policy where you're allowed to use your phone. I can't imagine an ICU nurse would be allowed to. Someone please code. She's begging a patient to pretty much flatline so she could have something to do. There's not even a thought. And that could have taken 20 seconds to type, right? And now all of a sudden it's like you can't get that back. It's out there, and that's all I need to say you're fired. Okay? Spur of the moment, I'm bored at work, right? But has really lasting consequences. Mom gets 4-year-old expelled. Why is it that every single day there is something new I dislikes about Will's school? Are my standards really too high, or are people working in the education field really just that ignorant? And she names the school. The school threw her kid out. Okay? It's a private school. There was no constitutional right that the kid could be there. All right? It was a tuition-based school. So the school said to the kid, pretty much who's 4, who had nothing to do with his mother's rants, we really don't want you here. Okay? And make that applicable to any private, parochial, non-public school, okay? Including a college. Okay? So when you go to college in 4 years, think about what other people are posting. Okay? Think about even now, other people might share their, you didn't make a team, and someone says, oh, that's awful, we feel so bad for you, and they say it in a derogatory way. That could have implications on you, even though you didn't post anything. Okay? So it's not just about you being digitally responsible, it's about other people doing it too. And how do you deal with when you get tagged in something? Okay? What do you do with that? All right? If school shooting was a sport, America would get the gold. These are 2 girls with handguns. They are legit handguns. I want to say it wasn't New Jersey, it was a 10-day suspension. They were suspended at least for 10 days. Okay? Free speech, right? Free speech, but again, consequence. Okay? Are they bringing light to the fact that there's school shootings in America? Absolutely. Okay? But I think the message wasn't perceived like that. Because again, if I see as a school administrator, if I see a picture of a kid with a gun, that's going to draw my attention. And we're going to look at that seriously. So even if you are proclaiming your Second Amendment rights and someone takes a picture of you with an AR-15 over your shoulder, we're going to look at that. Okay? Again, you post what you want. Okay? I'm not going to tell you what not to post, but just remember that has consequences or repercussions. Okay? Expelled for vulgar tweet. Yuri writes tweets are why Michigan stopped recruiting him. Okay, this was one of the best or top football prospects this was 2012. I can't even show you. I was tempted, and I would have had to block out too many words of some of his tweets. And Michigan, and I believe Notre Dame too, said no thanks. Okay, yeah, you were one of our top prospects, but no, we can't. If you're gonna put this stuff out there, we don't want you playing for our team. Okay, so think about that. You're involved in a Bergen Catholic sports team. You're on a club sport somewhere. Anything, any team you're involved in. Okay, that's not a right. All right, so think about that too. If I'm posting about anything, my coach could say, "Hey, we don't want you." Okay, and it's not just about posting. We said liking too. Go and have a school shooter one day. Okay, students suspended for liking Instagram post. So they were suspended for liking another post. So it wasn't even though these kids didn't post that, it was just, oh, I liked it. Okay? And I've seen countless news articles where kids have been suspended for what they share or what they like, not so much what they actually post. Right? This one is it's a quick news clip. I want you to see this. This was a worker who was fired over Facebook postings.
On tonight, a South Florida man fired over Facebook. He posted about a coworker that lost his job. Can an employer do that? Tuffy Howard and Patrick Frazier get answers.
Some people are afraid of getting shocked by electricity, and some people love to be around.
By trade, I'm a certified electrician. I love electricity. It's great.
Loved it so much, Jeffrey often volunteered to work double shifts at his job, day after day.
So I worked 16 hours a day. I was a great employee, in my opinion.
Jeffrey was a great employee, till he wasn't an employee at all.
And I was blindsided.
One day, while waiting for his work assignments, Jeffrey did what a lot of people do. Picked up his phone and started checking out Facebook.
And when I was on Facebook, a coworker was talking to me, and he happened to have that guy. And I felt a little offended.
Jeffrey didn't want to say anything and embarrass the fellow in front of his coworkers, so he went on Facebook and asked for advice, writing, "My coworker has the worst breath. He never stops talking and laughing, following me around. Yuck. Should I just embarrass him and tell him?"
I didn't say the name of any specific employee. I didn't mention the name of the company I worked for. It was just a random comment.
Jeffrey decided to not say anything to the guy, but 3 weeks later, Jeffrey's boss had something to say to him.
And I said, uh-oh. I said, what am I in trouble for? And they said, we're going to have to terminate your employment because of Facebook comments.
Jeffrey replied, I didn't mention any names, where they were, nothing. So what did I do wrong? Jeffrey was amazed that saying a coworker had bad breath on Facebook was being called physical violence.
Threats of violence, direct or indirect violence. I don't understand how this is violent at all. It's crazy.
Jeffrey was told resign or be fired, so he resigned, which brings up his first question.
Can my employer terminate me for Facebook posts, that are vague?
Take charge, Howard.
Unfortunately for many employees in Florida, yes, because Florida is a right to work state, meaning your boss can fire you for any reason or no reason at all. They can fire you for wearing a green shirt if they feel like it. The only exception, they cannot fire you because of nationality, disability, and in Dayton, Broward counties, your sexual orientation.
Howard, let's get to Jeffrey's second question.
What's going through my mind is I can't believe that I don't have freedom of speech. I wasn't directly attacking anyone. Do I have freedom of speech?
You do have freedom of speech, and you have the right to say anything you want. You just don't have a right to your job, and your employer has a right to fire you.
Jeffrey is now looking for a job, and after working for so long, he's realized days off are overrated.
Be careful what you wish for. People out there are not glad to get up every day and have a sense of security.
Need an electrician? Jeffrey's available.
My coworker has bad breath. My unnamed coworker, where I don't name where I work, has bad breath. Okay, but that was the company policy. Right? So again, and that one I thought was pretty good because it really, hits home that I really, he didn't think he was doing anything wrong. Like he really didn't think it was just a post. He didn't say where he worked. He didn't say who the coworker was. But according to the company policy, that was physical violence. All right. So I just want to leave you with a couple of takeaways, stuff I want you to think about. All right. As I said to you, tomorrow you're going to have your MacBooks and your iPads. If you've never had your own device before, that brings up a world of possibilities. Okay. You need to keep your footprint positive. Okay. However that looks, you need to make sure that it puts you in the best possible light. Not only what you post, share, like, whatever, but when other people tag you as well. Okay. Google yourself. Look up your name. You'd be amazed to see what you find. Okay? And that's a good exercise every so often, is to just look and see what's out there about you. Okay? If you have old social media accounts, either disable them, delete them, old email addresses, any of that stuff. Anything that's out there that you don't use, get rid of it. Okay? And the last two are kind of combined. Yeah, I said think before you post, and also be mindful of what you post about others. All right? Be mindful of somebody else's footprint. Would someone else appreciate if I tagged them in a picture that, that didn't look appropriate? Okay. You've got a lot. Growing up, I will tell you this, and my kids always say to me, Daddy, it's so different. They think that I'm so old. Growing up, it was so different when you grew up. It was. It's not a lie. It was very different growing up. Was it more difficult? I don't know. Growing up today, you've got the world at your fingertips. There's a lot. The challenges that you face today are different than the challenges that I faced. Okay? But I think if you use your technology responsibly, if you think about how you want to footprint yourself digitally, then I think you'll all be in good shape. Right? It's something that, the conversation just doesn't stop here after 20 minutes. If you have questions, that's what I'm for, your teachers are for. If you need help into, maybe you have something already you want to change privacy settings, you want to do something proactive, come and talk to, myself, to Mr. Patton, anybody who will be more than willing to help you in terms of trying to get your footprint positive, right? If you have, because I see it's 11, if you have questions for me, I can stick around. But other than that, I think we're done. Please stay seated. Mr. McElhenney will dismiss you. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you can walk away with something. That's my intent. And certainly, if you have anything for me, I'd be more than happy to help you. Thanks a lot.